Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our July session of Sitecore User Group Columbus, SUG Columbus. We have two great MVPs today, our friends Bala and Madhu. They are going to show us, they are going to take us a journey of Sitecore Search. Sitecore Search is a product. Sitecore Search, what is Sitecore Search and some APIs and other stuff. So Balaji is working as a practice director in CEI, Computer Enterprises Inc., and he is based out at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Balaji is three times Sitecore MVP and with more than a decade experience of Microsoft technology. With us, Madhu is also there. Madhu is working as a Sitecore consultant for the tech system in Boston, Massachusetts. And she is four-time Sitecore MVP. I'm giving control to them and take us to the journey of Sitecore Search. Thank you.
Thank you, Maulik, for the introduction. Let's get started. Today, we're going to have a look at Sitecore Search 101. So this is going to be a basic walkthrough on the platform, the capabilities, and some features. I want to keep this session interactive. So if in case you have any questions or any thoughts, like you can stop me anytime you want, don't have to wait till the end. So the whole idea of this is to walk through the platform and give you a basic idea of what it is. So feel free to ask any questions if you have anything. Over here, Maulik, thank you for the great introduction. So I'll do a quick introduction. Practice director at CA, three times MVP, and you can reach me on at bala1, and my website is bala.1. Madhu, I'll let you introduce.
Thank you, Bala. I'm Madhu Anbalagan. I'm a four times MVP. I work as a contractor at Tech Systems. Feel free to reach out to me at these handles. And also, I'm just going through some health issues, so I'll be really lightweight on this presentation, but just wanted to give a heads up. And thank you, Maulik and Himadri, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So let's get started with the evolution of Sitecore Search, where all this started. So in initial days, Google Search was the first search engine kind of, and then AdSense is a part of it. And Amar Chokwala, who was the founder of the Reflection, he was working part of the Google Search team. He built the entire AdSense around the Google Search. And then he moved out. He started a company called Reflection, founded in 2012. And then eventually that company got acquired by Sitecore in 2021. And then moved on. And it was Sitecore Discover at that point. It was rebranded as Sitecore Discover. And then eventually the Sitecore Search was born in 2022. It's more like a version 2 of Discover. So all the good working pieces of Discover has been picked up and then, started a new product called Sitecore Search. So what is Sitecore Search? The Sitecore Search compiles with three major components. So the first one is the customer engagement console. This is more like your platform where you log in. This is the SaaS platform on the browser. You log in and access the platform related sources or any changes that you do. It's their cloud platform interface. The second part is your search API, and then the third part is your events API. The search API is more related to all your search results. So whenever you're doing any search, you would be interacting with that API to get the results, do the search, do the facets filter or anything. Events API is something which collects all the visitor interactions. So whenever they are doing a search, what they are searching for, and what are the results that they are clicking, eventually all these events are used for the relevance tuning when the next search happens. So there is an important thing. Always people get confused between these two different platforms. So we have Sitecore Discover and Sitecore Search. They are two different platforms. They are not the same, but they might look alike, but they are two different platforms. The main idea behind the Sitecore Discover, it is more like an AI-driven, more related to your e-commerce related solutions. So Sitecore Discover is not something new. It's been there for a long time. And big brands like Big Lots and Rite Aid and a lot of other big companies are already using that. So it's not new to market or anything. Sitecore Search is something, it's more like a subset of Sitecore Discover platform, and it is mainly focused on your content related search. So they are two different platforms, just for clarity. So let's look into the Sitecore Search capabilities. What do they have? So they have visitor profiles. This is something I was talking about, the events API. So anytime the events are hitting, the visitor profile is being created, and each visitor profile will have a unique UID that will be used through your entire transaction. And that eventually is used for your tracking, which is all your analytics data that is being used. And then the third one, we have generic connectors. When I say generic connectors, this platform is not targeted for Sitecore. Although it is branded as Sitecore Search, this can be used with any platform. For example, it can be used with WordPress or Adobe or any platform. It is generic. So it just needs a sitemap URL, and then you can crawl it. Even in the upcoming demo, I'll be showing my blog is hosted in a different platform, but eventually I could use Sitecore Search to use it. So there is a multi-index management. So when you say multi-index management, there are all these different sources are combined together in one single place. So it can have multiple indexes, but you can have them as a unified source. So when you do a search, you can filter to a specific index, or you can filter across all your index for a better seamless search experience. You have context and rules engine. So whenever you are in a specific context of a site, that is used to define what results has to be shown. And also you can have customized rules with the rules engine that can be utilized to show the results. It does support multilingual and multi-region support. So multilingual, you have multiple languages that is being indexed natively by the platform, and then it can be used for your search. And then multi-regional support is they have different hostings. This will be applicable when you're doing GDPR kind of thing. You don't want the data to be living in US region. You can host it in multiple regions. So they have Australia region, and they have Europe and US, and there was like one more region. So they have multi-region support. So whenever you're setting up your instance, you can pick and choose what region is closer to your application. So they do the A/B multivariant testing as well. So you can have two different search experience and pick and choose which one works better, and then eventually make that as your final. So the other features generally that is provided by Sitecore Search are recommendations. So whenever you're doing a search, I will show you this in the demo. We have Sitecore Search being used in Sitecore, where you can see the recommendations being utilized. And suggestions is a common thing which we are used to nowadays. When you start typing, then it gives you the suggested text for your queries, and then you can choose. Third one is your facets and filtering, which is also a common feature nowadays. So you need to have facets on the left. Excuse me. So you need to use facets on the left, where you can choose different facets and then filter and drill down to a specific result that you're looking for. And the fourth one is more like a stop words. So there are certain words that you want to exclude part of your search. You don't want to show the results of them and improve your relevancy. You could use that. There are a lot of customizable features. Relevance is one of them, which you can customize and improve your relevance. Ranking, certainly you can boost or bury certain results. So I would be showing that as well, like from the ranking aspect. Sorting allows user to have a narrowed search results. In this case, it will be like a relevant sorting or a created date or a modified date. According to that, you can do some sorting. Personalization, also, it depends on your user behavior. The search results are automatically going to be personalized if you have enabled that. So they have advanced features. We did talk about the multi-index management, which is more like a universal search. So you can have multiple indexes, multiple sources, but you can have one unified universal search experience across all your sources. Synonyms, multiple words, and then you can have one term that can be used that is out of the box supported by the platform. Personalized results, it's with your search history and your behavior, it automatically fine-tunes that. Q&A supported. You can categorize certain queries and then the best possible results. So it's going to be like a Q&A kind of a search. Match highlighting is a common thing when you're really doing a search. Automatically, you want the terms to be highlighted in the results. Moving on, and I think with this, our theory side is done. We will just quickly go through a live demo of creating a web crawler and also an advanced crawler. And then we will walk through with a simple demo of Sitecore Search. We get into that browser window. Okay. Although I'll let you walk through the source creation and then I'll take it over.
Awesome. Thank you, Bala. So here we have logged into the new Sitecore Search portal, and we have lots of options in the left menu. And now let's start with adding a source. So we'll just add source, and we'll give SUG Columbus demo. This is the first thing where we add the source, like as a blog or as a website or anything you would like to add. So we'll just add it as a blog. So when we add the source, so we have like 4 different connectors, one with an API crawler. If you'd like to go for an API endpoint where the data is external and you wanted to bring it, where it returns the JSON and you wanted to bring the data in, you can go for the API crawler. API push is something like with an API with a new or existing indexes. The web crawler and the advanced web crawler is what generally used. So we'll go with an basic web crawler first. Let's pick the web crawler, and we'll just save the options. Just save. So now that we just saved the source, now we need to give some more information about what are the websites, sitemap, what are the options we have, and everything. So as we scroll through, here there is an attribute extraction. So before, this used to be an mandatory fields, and now Sitecore has filled out with some default options. So this is what, like when we go for the website and go into the page source, and when we see for the meta tags for OG tag for image URL or description, lot of meta tags are going to be there. So you can actually see whether the default value matches with your website. If not, you can actually add your actual values as well. Before, this used to be empty, so we need to go into the website and grab those information and put it in here. But now they just pre-filled it, so this section become default. I mean, we don't need to fill out unless we have some specific meta tags that are different from the default ones. So we can just and we can add some more attributes if you like, some breadcrumbs, types, ID, tags, or anything with custom, you can add it. You can add, and the types are going to be the meta tag, XPath, or fixed. So we usually go for the XPath or the meta tag. It's up to you what you wanted to go for it. So so this is all about the attribute extraction. And the next is the web crawler setting. As you can see, it's the purple color, like which is to do is bold, which means that it's mandatory. And whenever it's optional, you can see that the down bottom, the scan frequency to do is optional. So I mean, you cannot publish those the source unless these attributes are filled. So let's go with then web crawler settings and fill that options. So here we need to set up the trigger type, whether we wanted to do a request or sitemap or sitemap index. I think we can go for sitemap or sitemap index. I think today we can go for sitemap index. Here is Balaji's site blogs sitemap URL. So we just filled with and pre-filled with the sitemap URL for Bala's blog. And yep, so here is the sitemap one. And the max depth is like how many sub levels you wanted to go with, then crawling the sub pages. So we can set like 2, but if your website has like more than like more sub levels, you can feel free to, you can update to 3 or 4 or up to you. And the max URL, the same, depends on your website, like how many sub pages you have. And the another one is the exclusion patterns. Like if you wanted to exclude some of the pages from the search, like 404 page or some of those pages, if you don't want to show them in the search, you can give some regular expression or you can give some global expression as well. So for now, like we'll I mean, it's not mandatory, so we are just skipping it. And timeout is something like important, because whenever it reaches the URL, it needs to see whether the page is coming back. For in case if it is going to 404 or something, it will wait for like, by default, it's actually 60,000 milliseconds. It will wait for 60,000 milliseconds to see if the page comes back. If not, it will skip the page and will go to the next page. So if some of your pages are like my account, it has some APIs and things like that. If you wanted to, if it takes time, you can feel free to increase the number to anything you like. And the last is the header section. If you want to add some header section, you can feel free to add the dictionary key and the value, and save those properties. And scan frequency is something optional, but you can set up the scan frequency, whether you wanted to do it for every 12 hours, 24 hours, weekly, hourly, whatever you like, and the start date and the end date. So now we'll just set it up to every 12 hours. And I think we have filled out all the options. So we'll just publish. So this publish is going to set it up in a queue. So as you can see, the scan job has been started. And I think by the time we end the presentation, hopefully it should publish and it should work, keeping my fingers crossed. And with this, I'll transfer to Balaji for advanced crawler.
I have questions, Madhu.
Yeah, Madhu.
So you can actually restrict crawler that you showed. Does it honor the robots.txt kind of thing? Like, something,
Yeah.
if I don't want it to crawl.
So the regular
Yes.
robots.txt is supported, Himadri, but if you need any further thing, then I would recommend using this one here.
Yeah, so the reason I'm
exclusion
asking, the reason I'm asking, like, let's say Bala doesn't have access to this crawler, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Bala want to restrict some of his route and pages. So can he put something on his website so that crawler doesn't go there? So that's my point.
Yeah, agreed. So if you don't have this access, then robots.txt should be the place, and that should be respected by any search crawler. So this is just another crawler, so it's going to respect that file.
Okay.
And so your case, you're asking if it is a content author and they don't have access to this, then probably they can do it that way. So in the past, we had specific to Sitecore, I would say, like we had a specific field on every page that you can block that page not to show on crawler or something, and that could be utilized as well. In that case, you can add that to the exclusion pattern. So they're not changing it every time, but rather you just mark that page.
Yeah. Okay. And attribute extraction, how actually from the search perspective, how it actually helps. Like, you can get OG attributes and like, names and stuff. So how it actually helps in search.
So a couple of things here. So we don't have a push source and everything is being crawled on a public facing website. So one way you can do is using the meta tag, or you can use an XPath and specifically pick up a particular, it doesn't have to be always the meta tag. So you can always pick, you can choose this meta tag and then just say, I'm looking for OG description, and it will get the content. The second option is if you're using an XPath, then you can use the XPath to go drill down to a particular page. For example, in Sitecore, most of the time we'll have a main content on the page, or a container that has the main page content, and we'll have a H1 tag. So all the time we want the title or name to be the H1 tag, then you can say like this page / that particular tag, and you can pick it up. Or you can pick up, the third option is also you can pick up with the CSS I'll be showing in the advanced crawler. That is one option. And you also have another option to use JavaScript, jQuery. So that way you can drill down to a page and it loads the entire DOM. So you can pick whichever div or a span or something, and then fill that data into the attribute.
Okay.
It's going to be a lot of
I'm
work
just,
for us to initially set up. But,
yeah,
it's
but
more powerful.
I'm trying to understand, like, how it actually represented in the search. Like, so for example, say Google search, right?
Mhm.
All we do is actually sitemap, and then like, robot. So Google crawls it and finds out information. Here we are actually configuring crawler to pick
Yes.
up attribute information. So I'm just wondering that once it is crawled and all those attribute is extracted, how Sitecore Search is actually using that when someone is searching the site. So
Okay, so I know we have worked on Coveo in the past, so I could use that as a comparison. So in the past, when you set up a Coveo crawler, it will crawl the entire page. So you're not going and defining all these attributes. By default, it will crawl and it will automatically do the mapping and then fill in all those fields. And then you can go and search, and then it's going to give all the fields that has been crawled. And then you can use those in your template to show what you want to show. But in Sitecore Search, and even in Coveo, they have recently changed that approach. They don't crawl everything anymore. So you have to define every single field that you want to crawl just to keep the index more clean. So in that case, you're defining, in this case, I've defined URL, image, URL, name, title, and description. So when I go like this is only crawling those 4 fields. It's, if you compare it with Google, Google is going to crawl your entire page. Doesn't matter which field or anything. It's just going to crawl line by line, pick up all the content, then it will extract everything and throw it into, the index. So anytime you're searching for a particular text that is just as text in that page, then you will find that result coming out. But in this case, in Sitecore Search, you're specifically sending all the data. So if you see here, I have a name, title, description, image, URL, or URL. So if my text is matching to any of these fields, then it is going to show the result. Then you might say, like, I had a main container which had like 5 paragraphs of text, and I searched for that particular text. That search never came up. So in that case, you need to have one more field which talks about content, and then you have to feed the crawler the content field as well. It's up to you to use the content on the front end or not, but at least you need to feed it in so that it is indexed. So whenever you're searching for that 5 paragraph, any text in that, then automatically the results will come up with all the 5 fields. And also you can control what fields comes out, which I'll also show that. But the approach or the mindset is a little bit shifted when we are using Sitecore Search.
Okay. And then can you actually put weight on those fields? Like,
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. Yes. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Let's get into the, go ahead.
Hey, Bala.
Yeah, Maulik, go ahead.
So for this particular one, you have specified the source as a sitemap.xml.
Correct.
So technically, it is not going to crawl the whole site, or it is going to crawl only the sitemap.xml.
So it will go to this file. It is looking at this page. When I said sitemap, what is that? 2 options we had. One is the sitemap. Okay, this is a sitemap index. So we are clearly saying that is the index file, which has other sitemaps in it. So in this case, I pointed to the index file, and you can see the sitemap pages that goes into only the pages here. Then it will crawl all those, and then it will go into this, and it has all my blog posts, and it will crawl that, and then it's going back into the authors. I have 2 that will crawl that, and then it will go into the tags and then crawl all the tags. So that's what it would do.
Okay.
So it is not just like pointing to the root of the site and it will just grow and crawl everything. Rather, you're just saying, hey, this is my sitemap index file. It has other sitemaps in it, go crawl everything. Or you can say, I just don't want all these directly. I want only the post. Then you can just point it to that and then set this field as just a sitemap.
Okay. I think what I can, how many different web crawler I can set up in single?
So
Can
in
I do
this
it
case,
multiple?
you can set up only one per source. But in the advanced crawler, there are some options that I will quickly show that will give you a better idea. So let me do as you.
Because what I believe, I really don't need access to the website. I just need to know there is a sitemap.xml. So if I am doing on a good faith, if I want to create a website where someone can come and search one single website, but it can search through my website, your website, Madhu's website, and Himadri's website. So I just need to add sitemap XML for all the 4 websites.
Yes.
Will that work? Like, I don't need access to your website.
Correct.
I don't need access
You
to
need to
Madhu's
have
website.
four sources set up in your Sitecore search. And then when you're doing the search, rather doing a filter, you can say show all content.
Okay.
Or if you're just doing in your website, you want to show only your blogs, then you can filter it down and say like, I want only from this source, or URL matching this, you can have those configurations. So that way it will show only that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the multi-index thing that's useful. And even in Sitecore, before we do that, I'll just quickly show the Sitecore search. You should have seen that, but I'll just quickly cover that. So if you see here, if I start typing CDP, you can see this is the query suggest I was talking through and the recommendations here on the right, which is something unique to this product. When you start typing and then it gives a nice overview, and then you can say view all results and takes you here, and you can also see this recommendation up top. And then on the left, you have all the facets. And then this is also, you can see it's coming from multiple sites. It's just not one site. It can be coming from sitecore.com. It's coming from Symposium, documentation, and developers. All these are different sites. But it has a unified search experience. More like this will answer exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Bala, one quick question on this one. So what we are seeing is the Sitecore Search is basically a content crawler and not a Sitecore indexer, or like it doesn't index the Sitecore content items. It only indexes the content from the live website, right?
That is correct, Jayesh. Welcome.
Yeah. Hey, so is this going to it's not a replacement for Coveo for Sitecore or something like that, right? Where
You can
have
use this as a replacement. The main difference between Coveo and Sitecore Search is Coveo has the push API. So if you see here, when I was creating, you see this API push. Internally, Coveo also has this push API. That is what they are using. They built a Sitecore module that will crawl the contents internally directly in the Sitecore, like reading item by item. And then the indexer will use this API to push it out to Coveo. So that piece is missing in Sitecore. At the moment, they don't have it. Maybe in future, they'll come up with that module, which makes our life easier.
Mm-hmm. And
So
do they have anything like Hive components?
They really don't have a lot of components availability at the moment. I do have an example that I built that will give you an idea, but they do have a SDK that you can use. But at the moment it's more raw. It's not like a Hive or Atomic or headless tool set that you could use to, quickly drag and drop and get started.
Okay.
So that is missing as well.
Okay, thanks. Continue.
No problem. So here, if you see the API crawler is one thing. In a lot of cases, if we have order cloud related stuff or anything, headless API platforms, we could use that to crawl directly the APIs. And API push is the one I just explained, which is something like you are pushing into the index rather it crawling you. Third one is the web crawler that Madhu walked through, and then we are going into the web crawler advanced. And I will just hit save description. Save it. So let's go inside that. This is close to the web crawler, but you do have a lot more additional settings available here. Source information, general, the name, description. And then if you go into the web crawler settings, so you do have this. If you start editing that, you can see this. You can add multiple domains, maximum depth, and you have the maximum URLs, exclusion pattern, same as the regular crawler. Important thing is the parallelism workers. So in this case, if you have a 10,000 page, it's going to crawl one page at a time. If you have multiple parallel workers, it's going to do it faster. These kind of like it's more advanced. Like they give access to a lot of things, but you have to be in caution when you're using stuff. And then you can say the delay between each request, how much delay you want to give. So once it crawls, then you want it to wait, or Sometimes, a lot of times, the firewalls would think that it's more like a bot attack if you're continuously hitting the site. So you can set up some delays in those cases. Timeout, like Madhu explained, it's the same thing. Enable navigation during the crawling. That is an additional thing that's not available in your regular crawler. This is going to prevent cookies to prevent repetitive URL access or any random things. Render JavaScript is something you can enable this specifically for React, Next.js, or SPA kind of an application. So you want the JavaScript to be rendered before it starts crawling. So you can turn this on. And then in the allowed domains, I can just add bala.1 and then save it. So if you go below that, you have the locals. This is more like for your multilingual support. And then there is some tag definition. I'll just leave all these out of the box. Main thing we are interested is the triggers. So when you go into the trigger, they have multiple types of triggers. So in the advanced crawler, you can see that there is a JS, JavaScript-based trigger, or you can use a RSS-based trigger. You have the regular request, sitemap, and index, which are like the other things we saw on. So advanced only, you have these options. So I can do the sitemap, and then I can add a URL. So I can do my posts. You can add multiple URLs as well. You can see this, and you can have multiple triggers as well for this particular source. So in this source, you want to have multiple sites, you can have it in just one single source.
Is that for one domain, or you have to?
You can do multiple domains as well, Himadri, here. And in the allowed domains is where you would define like what are the sites that are going to use this crawler.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, like, if you have allowed domain bala.1, then you can only add.
It's only going to do that. Yes, you can add multiple domains and add multiple triggers as well. Hit save here. And then in the document extractors, it's something similar what Madhu was walking through, but you can see this is also, you can have multiple extractors. So in this case, I'm just saying like an XPath. And this also gives you the option of CSS if you want to go style based. If you know your site has this H1 tag or a particular class name, and then you want that to be matched. So those kind of things you could do. So at the moment it is XPath. Show my site, I have a JS based thing. So here you can see each attribute, and then it is going with the meta tag here. So earlier this used to be blank and everything has to be manually set up. We gave some feedbacks early on, and now it's at least, pre-filling with certain things, which is like a common thing for any SEO site. You will have a name, URL, image, URL, and description, which is very common in any website. So they just made this as a default template. So that's the reason it's already there. And go back, I didn't change anything, so it did not allow me to save. If you go into this, it also allows you to use authentication. If you can go with the basic, where you can give regular basic authentication, or you can go with the browser authentication, where you can give the URL CSS selector for the username text box, give the value CSS selector for the password, what is the submit selector, how long it needs to wait, and then it can automatically authenticate for like a secure website. So that's a possibility.
But it is like, not going to do user specific crawl though. Like, this is what we heard actually in the MVP summit, that whether authenticated content can be actually crawled, right? I think this is the result of that.
Correct. That is right. Yeah. So because there are certain sites, I've worked with one client, they have an authenticated website, but it's not exposed to the internet. But if you have those kind of scenarios where you want to authenticate, go in and crawl, and they still want to use Sitecore Search, they could use this option. But most common scenario, you would not run into the situation of authenticating a site. It's just more like behind the firewall or something.
Yeah. No, I am wondering, like, if crawling is one thing, and then, like, displaying data is the other thing, right? So if it is behind the login, you probably don't want to show it to everyone. So
but you could still use the Sitecore Search for your internal users. That's the use case.
Correct. Yes. I think that's exactly what actually came up in the discussion in MVP Summit.
Yeah. The other thing also I think about is more like, consider if you're crawling an intranet site, more like a SharePoint. In that case, you need to authenticate to crawl. It doesn't mean like you would obviously use Microsoft Search, but I'm just saying that is another scenario you can think of. It is an intranet site and you want to crawl that and you still want to use Sitecore Search.
Correct.
So moving on to the next one is the request extractors. This is one I will show in an existing one I set up, but you can have a JavaScript based, like what you want to extract. Like you can, this is more related to like you are crawling a API and then getting a data. You can have some piece of JavaScript and say, I want to get that data, and then you can fill in. It's more like a JavaScript based requesting, like more like an extractor. These are like the advanced features. If you're comparing it with Coveo, like you don't get access to these many things. And scan frequency, like we talked before, it is the same thing. I'll just hit hourly. And then it also gets incremental updates, which is not available in your regular crawler. So you can turn this on. And then if you notice here, it is just going to turn or off the incremental updates. It's not like rather doing a full crawl every single time, every hour. It's going to just do the incremental updates of what has changed before and after, more like looking into your sitemap. So for instance, if I open one of these posts and you can see the last modified date, accordingly, it will just incrementally update rather crawling the entire site. And then hit save. And then you can publish this. One other feature I didn't talk through is related to this publish. You can have certain things changed, but not affecting immediately. If you see in Coveo, when you make changes, they're pretty much active right away. So there is no in-between flip switch. But here you can change everything and it's all showing in draft state. And then you can publish it. And also you can go back versions. If you made some mistakes, hey, I made a mistake, let me go back to that version. More like our Sitecore versioning, you could do that. Are you sure you want to publish? Yes, I would say. Then it will start the rescan job. So considering time, I will just quickly walk through the platform, and also we have one more demo that I need to show. Quick platform walkthrough for 5 minutes, and then I'll quickly show the demo. Then we'll give some time for our discussion. So if we're going into the administration, this is the panel that I was initially talking through. You go into the domain settings. Here is all the platform level configuration. Mostly you're not getting into this and changing anything. All your domain information, this is my company, so everything is available here. You go to the attributes. This is more where you're defining any custom attributes, and these are the attributes internally you are seeing, like I was mapping the data. So if in case you want to add an attribute, you can mention like content, what is the display name, attribute name, and all the fields available here, what icons, and then you can, this is something interesting I saw. You can say if it is required. So this field, if you mark it as required, you need to pass the data that to for the crawler to consider. And then you can say whether it needs to be returned in the API response. Like in the previous example we were talking through, we want the content field with 5 paragraphs of data, but I don't want that data to be pushed back in my API response, which is not really useful. But that is only used for internal crawling purpose and for searching terms. So in that case, I don't have to check this out. So if I don't check, then it's not going to return in my API response. And you can see this available for rules, filters, available for quick look. A lot of other options are there. You can enable this. This is another area important, but in general, if you see, this is close to a comparison with Coveo. If you see the field definition where you can mark it as a facet or, available in response. So you can see all the checkboxes available here. Is it a faceted field, or it can be used for filter or not? And here you can see the content type and ID are required field. So without passing these two to your push index or something, it's not going to crawl that content. So feature configuration, again, if you go into API response, you can say what you need to send for each template, or you can chain these things. And this is one. And most of the other things are self-explanatory. And then the last thing is your subdomain setup. Most of the times, in this case, you can see it is branded in our name. But if you don't set up this, you cannot use it for API. And if you try to use it, it's going to throw some errors. But in general, they will give you a generic URL. Like I talked through that quickly. So if you go to the API source, you can see this here, CA America RFK, caamerica.com. And then this is the, if you don't have the subdomain setup, then probably you would use this. you have the subdomain setup, then you can have your branded CA America thing. Customer key is here and API keys are exposed. I'm aware of this, will be deleted after the meetup. But in general, we did ask for a feature request not to show the API keys on the fly. Rather, it should have like an eye bubble or something to keep it hidden. Let's quickly go into the API Explorer. Here is where you will do your search queries to check things. So let me quickly show you something here quick. Build. Uh-oh. What happened? Something, let's see. Okay. So you can see this, I'm doing a URI here, and then here, if you notice, I'm calling this, this is the page this is more like where the search is executed. And then here you can see I'm giving an RFK ID. And then in this content, I didn't send anything, but in the query, I can send a keyword, say forms. And then I can build the request, and you can see the query goes with the key phrase. Then I hit execute. And then you are getting the results related to the forms here. And if you see the entity that's coming back is giving the ID, and then each content is an array, and you get the description, ID of that result, image URL, name, source ID, where it is coming from. So Maulik, you were asking about this. In that case, you can do like a source ID level filter. So these are the IDs that you could use. And this ID is connected to the source that we defined earlier. So this is just a quick API Explorer. And if you go to Event Builder, again, you can use this to build your events. And then this is actually not working. Try it one more time. So it was throwing some errors. So it's saying user is not authorized, but generally you can see, you can check, I'm doing a click, which page, geo, browser agent, and all the details here. And then the UUID is where you need to pass like a unique ID. And then eventually this unique ID will be used in your event monitoring, where you can give your UID and then say start monitoring. When you do the search, then it's going to appear and show all the transactions that you are doing. And is it all working as expected? So moving on to the sources, we did check through this. And we'll go to the content collection. Content is where you will see all your contents are available here. You can pick one of them. And then you can see the image is already picked up, saying article type. Source is coming from Bala BlogSug. And the ID is here. The ID content, all the details are available. Madhu, you were asking something related to the content. In that case, you need to have that value here in more like a content field with all the 5-paragraph content or something. That way, that could be used for your search, like any terms on that page, then it will show this result with these fields.
Okay.
And each one of those items, you can also look into the stats. The moment I don't have anything, but for each page, you can see like all these data is used for relevance tuning. So how much average click position, and a lot of other things. So in real life, that will be useful for the search to fine tune the algorithm. So moving on to the visitors, you can search for a UID particular person and then show all the details. And this also supports GDPR. So you can go to the GDPR, add a deletion request, give the UUIDs, all the values, even from an Excel sheet or something. If somebody says like they want to be out, like removed from the system, and then you can submit that, it will clear all the transactions for that particular user. Global widgets. So in Sitecore Search, everything goes with something called widget, which has an RFK ID. That's the one we are using. Here is where you will define all your rules. And you have also the variation settings. You can have A/B testing that I was talking through. And you hit your, sorry, if you hit your rules, then you would see this screen where you can go with the context here, and then you can do the search. One important feature is you can pick a particular search, and then you can say boost it, or you want to pin it. So it will show in that particular spot no matter what. Or you can do a search and then you can say, I want to bury this content. Or you want to say like, I don't want to show this result, for example. I don't want to show this result. So you can blacklist that. Then it's gone. And on the right-hand side, any changes that you are doing, on the right-hand side, you can quickly check, is this still working or not? This is more like your preview window. So you go here and you can do the boost results. You can go fields or any custom fields, then you can, boost. Then each attribute you can boost, or you can bury. You don't want to push it down, then you can do this, or you can see in this case it's blacklisted. So whenever, even if I go and search for here install then it should not show this here, but this is coming from another source. But generally when you do this, and then when you do a search here, then it should not show here. These are the ones I had, and then you go into the additional settings. You have the session blocks, facets related, what facets you want, relevance, text relevance, search ranking. Here is also certain things, the weights that you were asking, Madhu, so you can change those things and say like, I want this weighted and not weighted. I have not done any for the custom field, so I would love to see that. But in general, for the search ranking, they're using this. In most of the cases I've run into is like modified date. I don't want it because certain pages will get updated most often. Doesn't mean that has to be up top. So I would reduce the weight on those. Personalization, you can enable it, and then automatically according to the user events and other things, it's going to do it itself. Sorting, the basic sort. So this is about the widgets. Looking at the time, synonyms, self-explanatory, you go there. In this case, I have a one-way, two-way synonyms, or you could use a replacement. If you're searching for MVP, then automatically the text will be searched to Sitecore MVP. That's about it. Going into the analytics, you have the basic analytics, where you go by the views, click conversions, decliners, and a lot of other things which are very common. And then when you go into the Content Explorer, it's going to show the most viewed results, search, views, click, all the details. At the moment, I don't have analytics set up on mine, so you're not seeing anything. And if you go with the site, you can do with the search keywords, or you can go with the widgets as well. Here in Sitecore Search, for the components, they call it as widgets, and each widget will have a particular ID that's being used. Let me find that. Okay, this is the widget window, and you can see that Bala blog RFK ID. Remember, they said the IDs that I was using when I was doing the API source. And each of these IDs, if you go into particular one, widget settings, and then you can change any changes you do here, whenever you are pointing to this RFK ID, that variations and things will work. Going into the pages. Firstly, I've not used this. This is more related to hosting a page directly on Sitecore's page and Sitecore Search and use it on your site. Site performance, again, it's all analytics. Quickly, I will walk you through the demo of the page that I created. It's nothing fancy. This is a simple HTML page you can see, and then I'm doing a search for forms. And then it is doing results here. This is just a simple HTML page, not hosted anywhere. Let me quickly show the code. So if you see here, I'm using the JavaScript SDK from Sitecore Search, more like their initialization. The rest all is basic jQuery for the beautification. Ignore the styles. And if you see here, it is just a simple development. Looking at the code, I created a simple template, more like a JavaScript template. I'm using more like a jQuery template that I'm using to show the results. Important things to notice, I'm saying my page URL and my widget ID, the RFK ID. You see the search here, I'm getting the data, setting up the search request here, which you saw in my API screen demo. And I'm then eventually I'm just doing a AJAX call to discover V2. I'm posting that using my API key, passing that data, and on done, like I'm getting the results and showing. It's as simple as that. So like this, you have certain endpoints that you could reach, and then you can test in your API Explorer, eventually use it here. And that is what you are seeing here. So when I do Sitecore, you can see my company site is also showing up here. So this is like one single page, but pulling data from different sources. I think that's all I have. I'll give a few minutes before we wrap for any other further questions.
All right. I think we did ask some questions, but I'll open it up for anyone, if anyone else has any question.
So Bala, is there any cost involved using this Sitecore Search?
Absolutely. You need to get a license to buy it. And even before we were starting, we were talking through that. In Coveo, they used to do a query per month. So every search API query you are doing is having cost, and typically it goes with like 100K queries per month or something. They give you a cost. For Sitecore Search, for sure, I know it is not a query per month. Rather, it's going to be by traffic. But there is a cost involved. Yes, it's not free.
Mm-hmm.
And also from the pricing aspect, if you ask how expensive it is, I would say Coveo being the top of the bucket, and then Sitecore Search would be in the middle, and then the search stacks would be in the end.
Okay,
The spectrum.
thanks.
Yep.
The search stacks model is a little different, right? I mean, they are not like in a Sitecore Search. They are more integrated with the Solar and things, and basically.
But it is also a equivalent platform, Himadri. I would say they have rebranded it now. They don't call it search stacks. Maulik, you might need to help me here. They have split the product names, like it was changed recently. So they have their Solar as a search stacks managed cloud or something, and then they have a search stacks search. That search platform is equivalent to what you can do with Coveo or Sitecore Search.
Okay.
The backend might be Solar, but they have a similar experience. And the only missing piece in the past I remember was different between Coveo and search stacks is they did not have a AI-based search relevance tuning, which is also recently launched a few months back. So they are at par, I would say. So these three are like equivalent platforms. They have, each platform has their own pros and cons.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right. Looks like we don't have any other questions, but this was a excellent presentation, Bala and Madhu. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much. Hopefully this is useful and gave you at least a basic idea of how Sitecore Search functions, and get you started.
Definitely. We have recorded it, and we will actually share in our YouTube channel. Maulik, you have anything to add?
No, I'm very much thankful to you guys. It's a really nice session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for hosting us. Absolute pleasure talking to the group again. See you soon in another topic.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Maulik. Thank you, Himantri.
Yep.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.
Thank you.